Books presents an unabridged recording of The Pardon by James Grippando, narrated by Ron McClarty. This work is copyrighted 1994 by James Grippando. This recording is copyrighted 2000 by Recorded Books. Jack Switek is a brilliant Miami defense attorney. He has spent years rebelling against his father, Harry, Florida's governor, and their estrangement seems complete when Harry allows one of Jack's innocent clients to die in the electric chair. But the stakes are raised to far more perilous heights when a psychopath traps both men in an elaborate plot to exact his own twisted version of justice. And now, The Pardon.
Part 1. October, 1992. Prologue. The vigil had begun at dusk, and it would last all night. Clouds had moved in after midnight, blocking out the full moon. It was as if heaven had closed its omniscient eye in sorrow, or just plain indifference. Another 6 hours of darkness and waiting, and the red morning sun would rise over the pine trees and palms of northeast Florida. Then at precisely 7 a.m., Raul Fernandez would be put to death. Crowds gathered along the chain-link fence surrounding the state's largest maximum security penitentiary. Silence and a few glowing lights emanated from the boxy 3-story building across the compound, a human warehouse of useless parts and broken spirits. Armed guards paced in their lookout towers, silhouettes in the occasional sweep of a searchlight. Not as many onlookers gathered tonight as in the old days, back when Florida's executions had been front-page news rather than a blip next to the weather forecast. Even so, the usual shouting had erupted when the black hearse that would carry out the corpse arrived. The loudest spectators were hooting and hollering from the backs of their pickup trucks, chugging their long-necked Budweisers and brandishing banners that proclaimed, "Go Sparky," the nickname death penalty supporters had affectionately given the chair. The victims' parents peered through the chain-link fence with quiet determination, searching only for retribution, there being no justice or meaning in the slashing of their daughter's throat. Across the road, candles burned and guitars strummed, as the names of John Lennon and Joan Baez were invoked by former flower children of a caring generation, their worried faces wrinkled with age and the weight of the world's problems. Beside a cluster of nuns kneeling in prayer, supporters from Miami's Little Havana neighborhood shouted in their native Spanish, "Raúl es inocente, inocente!" Behind the penitentiary's brick walls and barred windows, Raul Fernandez had just finished his last meal, a bucket of honey-glazed chicken wings with extra mashed potatoes, and he was about to pay his last visit to the prison barber. Escorted by armed correction officers in starched beige and brown uniforms, he took a seat in a worn leather barber's chair that was nearly as uncomfortable as the boxy wooden throne on which he was scheduled to die. The guards strapped him in and assumed their posts, one by the door, the other at the prisoner's side. "Barber'll be here in a minute," said one of the guards. "Just sit tight." Fernandez sat rigidly and waited, as if he expected the electricity to flow at any moment. His bloodshot eyes squinted beneath the harsh glare as the bright white lights overhead reflected off the white walls of painted cinder block and the white tile floors. He allowed himself a moment of bitter irony as he noticed that even the guards were white. All was white, in fact, except the man scheduled to die. Fernandez was one of the thousands of Cuban refugees who'd landed in Miami during the Mariel boat lift of 1980. Within a year, he was arrested for first-degree murder. The jury convicted him in less time than it had taken the young victim to choke on her own blood. The judge sentenced him to die in the electric chair, and after a decade of appeals, his time had come. "Morning, Bud," said the big guard who'd posted himself at the door. The prisoner watched tentatively as a pot-bellied barber with cauliflower ears and a self-inflicted Marine-style haircut entered the room. His movements were slow and methodical. He seemed to enjoy the fact that for Fernandez, every moment was like an eternity. He stood before his captive customer and smirked, his trusty electric shaver in one hand, and in the other, a big plastic cup of the thickest-looking tea Fernandez had ever seen. "Right on time," said the barber through his tobacco-stained teeth. He spat his brown slime.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.